I met a gypsy.
When you first started getting these bigger kind of outside industry, or okay, simplest way to phrase this question, when did you start to become like Showtime?
I had Showtime on the butt of my pants in '87 at Loretta's in the C class.
So you were just Showtime the whole time?
I was Showtime the whole time. And the reason I have that nickname is because I had my own track and my house used to sit on this pad above my track.
Yeah.
And I was always out there jumping.
Is that the one that was on the side of the freeway?
Yeah.
It's like before the hospital?
By the hospital.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
So when I grew up there was
nothing.
There was nothing.
Was a freeway there?
Yeah, it was there, but it was just a two-lane little nothing. So I was always riding in the back on my track and always having my mom and dad watch me. And that's where my dad was like, we got to put Showtime, because I'm always like styling and doing all this stuff. It was so corny for back in the day, but I was a kid, you know. I was like,
that's
check
what you
this
thought
out,
was dope.
you know.
Yeah.
And I loved jumping even before I could ever even race Supercross, you know. So that's kind of where that came from. And me and Davey Coombs always talk about it, like, hey, 87 Loretta's, you had Showtime on your pants. Why? And I was like, I don't even know why.
Yeah.
You know, I had JT orange pants with Showtime on the back. And it was just, that was always the way it is. And I like to show off. I don't like to talk a lot about it. You know, I just like to do it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my way to express myself, you know.
But I think that's so cool. But I think Showtime kind of took on its own life in the 90s and early
Absolutely.
2000s, where that became, you know, like Conor McGregor, the Notorious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it became a thing. When did it start to feel like it was becoming a thing? Or is it like losing weight where it's like you kind of don't know? It just sort of happens over time. But yeah,
I mean, you know, I think when you start to dominate, so when I was starting to win a lot, and then it was always like styling over the finish line, and then the last lap on the triples, and it started to take on a life of its own. And then when the knack came out, when I started doing the knack is when it like really became. Like,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really became the thing, you know. And then that took on a life of its own, right? So then everyone was coming up with something, right? That having a good nickname, it can really help your brand too.
It's branding, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, it just, and then I played into it. Like I was always having crazy helmets, and I was doing these wild helmets with Troy Lee, and we were doing it for Anaheim for the openers and all this, the fire coming off my helmets and all these weird taillights.
Yeah.
Like,
you and Randy with the blue hair.
Yeah, exactly. The blue hair back in 98 or 9, whatever that was. I mean, we were always sort of trying to do something to make people look at us.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, luckily, like for instance, like with Troy Lee, was his business and my career were coming up together. We were helping each other, and he's so creative, and we would sit in there and laugh and go like, hey, let's do this. You know, let's come out with a helmet with like dingleberries around it, like a lampshade.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then I'd go out and win with it, and it was like, holy shit, dude. What's he doing? What kind of helmet? What is it? What is that?
Yeah.
You know, and then there was always something. So, you know, the Showtime thing just sort of, there's plenty of other ones, people, you know, MC and all these other, you know, things. But the Showtime always kind of stuck, you know?
Yeah. And I think that I think that particular character within the sport is what really kind of catapulted the sport, you know, and
maybe.
Well, I think from me, like from when I looked at the sport as a kid in Australia, and like we could just get VHS tapes every now and again, and like we'd have to tape stuff if it ever came on TV and shit, you know. So it was kind of like a pretty
2 a.m. on a Tuesday night or something.
Yeah, legit, and like trying to pause the commercials so that you didn't have to like watch the
right.
But it seemed like that Showtime, the 90s, it just really everything kind of it just went from like hay bales in a stadium to the show
neon
that we
lights
see now, lights, and you know, and I think there's, you know, the US Open had a lot to do with that, with the way that, you know, like
the way they
did that whole deal.
Yeah.
And so it's like obviously there was a lot that was kind of going into it, but it just really seemed like you were the face of that.
Yeah, I think, one of the things cool is Feld was also creative too. They when we were changing, they were changing, and they created a better platform for all the riders, better show, better lights, better opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
They let us do opening ceremonies, like, let us ride a fast lap, do some jumps, ride together,
And who was putting forward those ideas? Was that coming from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, there was a guy named Gary Becker that was involved before it was Feld, when it was like, SRO. Then there was Charlie Mancuso, and then there's, Todd, and then, there's been a lot of great people that love the sport, that have really backed this thing for a long time, and we had many conversations of, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I was lucky to be in those conversations, right? Because I was the top guy at the time.
Yeah.
And I got along with those guys really well. Yeah, I mean, they were creating a platform for us, and we all spoke about it together. It wasn't like if I wanted to do something, they would say no. Like, hey, okay, let's think about it. How can we make that creative? And they were investing in the lasers and the smoke machines and the music and all the stuff that went on with it. So, look, I was the guy dominating and winning, and the name people were hearing, and the Showtime thing, and but the sport itself was growing too.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time we were ever on like SportsCenter. It still doesn't happen, which I don't know why.
I don't know.
But I got on SportsCenter a few times after winning, 10 races in a row. Finally, I got on SportsCenter. But it's weird to me to think that motorsports doesn't really get us any time on, even if it's just a hair on some of that,
Yeah.
Formula One does a little. MotoGP doesn't even get on it.
No, it's crazy. Yeah.
So, but US Supercross should be on SportsCenter because it's an American sport, and it's just like, it's as big as the others.
Yeah,
and more famous
up
than the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think that's a little short-sighted, because if someone at ESPN they could help grow the whole sport.
Yeah.
And create more superstars.
Yeah.
Create more known figures.
We're in the perfect time for it now too, because I think there were obviously a lot of other great guys around you, but it was so focused on you through that period of time. Nowadays, like, Chase is like the American quarterback out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
There's the most clean-cut American kid, athlete kind of dude. You got Jet, like Justin Bieber of motocross. You got Hayden Deegan. You've got Joe Shimoda from Japan. You've got AP the cowboy.
Yeah.
Like, there's more.
Absolutely.
Eli Tomac is the fucking American eagle.
Yeah.
You've got Ken Roxon. Like, you've got such a.
Eli's the Bruce Springsteen of Supercross.
Oh, dude,
straight
up.
He's just like, Americana as it gets,
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.